Hey everyone, welcome to Getting Lit with me, Tommy Calloway. And I have our special guest here, Robert Machado. Let's bring him in. He is our resident cinematographer for the evening.
How's it going? How you doing? Glad to be on.
Well, thanks for coming on. And everyone can hear him okay. Let me know. I can hear him okay. And I made sure to turn his sound on. Last week, we had Dave Donaldson of Grip Tips. No, the week before last. And I had his audio muted for the first 5 minutes. So
I hate when that happens. I'm new to this whole streaming thing as well, and yeah, it happens.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my pour over here.
I'll do my reveal. It's nothing too fancy for me.
Oh, that's not bad. It's a beer. I mean, I don't really do
Stock.
beer. Well, cheers. Thanks for joining me.
Cheers.
Boom. Oh, wait, no. You're over there. Wait, I got this.
Wait, what are we doing?
I got to cheers you. There we go. Thanks.
There we
All right, so I think...
Looks like chat can hear me, so...
yeah, I had the
that's not
pop-out
good.
chat, but I had the wrong one, so I got to go back there. Pop-out chat. There we are. Now I can see all you guys' beautiful chats.
Excelente.
Okay, so I don't think that I turned up my key light quite bright enough. It's a kind of a ghetto rig situation. Hang on, sorry. I covered you with my Chrome browser. This is chaos. Here we go. I got to get you out of the way. So Robert is sharing the screen with my two monitors over here, and I'm using those as my very soft key light this evening. So usually we always go over all the lighting first, so that's what we're going to do. I spent so much time trying to be fancy to one-up the cinematographer this evening that I didn't spend any time on the key light situation, and if I just turned on my overhead big normal light, it would just be way too bright. So I'm not using that. I'm just using Chrome browsers.
Hey, sometimes a desktop computer is all you need, honestly. It's a nice big source, close to the subject.
Yeah, light is light. It's not always about having 98 CRI. Sometimes you just need something that will illuminate the subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. If it works, it works. Nothing wrong with that at all. So it's cool.
Cool. So tonight, all my lighting setup is we've got the Lupo Super Panel full color 60 behind me with a grid. And then we have on the slider, the Rhino slider, the Lupo Action Panel full color. It's on the Rhino Arc 2 slider. And the light is being powered by VMount batteries. And then we have the Aperture Nova behind me with that little blue section above Robert. And then we have the two Chrome browsers as my key light. And then over here for the Whiskey Cam, we have a nice little Aperture MC, and it is illuminating the whiskey and the glass, and it's giving it a really nice long light kind of all the way across the glass here on two sides. It looks really nice in my opinion. And then for the pink wall over there, we have the Came TV Bolton Andromeda Slim Tube, and that's kind of my rundown for this evening.
Yeah, it's nice. I like your angle. Your the Nova back here. It's like it's giving me my own backlight, so I don't have to really worry about that. So
exactly,
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So what are you working with?
I have a 300D. That's it. No, but yeah, I have I mean, really though. So the only light I have right now in my setup is it's a 300D going through the light dome. And then through the light dome, it's going through a roll of full grid. So it's kind of a double break there. So it makes the soft light even softer and more even. And then on my fill side, I have a 4x floppy. So one, that helps with sound, but two, it also takes away fill. So that way, as the light falls off, it goes into kind of a pure black. So it's a kind of a contrasty look.
I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. I find myself lately not using as much fill lately, so I mean, it ultimately depends on the project, but for at least YouTube stuff, I'll usually end up taking away a light. So, but other than that, I mean, I sent you that diagram.
Yeah, let's pull that up.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of lighting diagrams. So
there we go. Here's your diagram. You're on screen.
there you go. That's basically it. So just a 300D through a light dome through full grid, and then it's hard to see because it's obviously white. But on the side of the full grid, I have another 4x ultra bounce that's kind of keeping some of that spill off of the background, but also since it is an ultra bounce, it's a lot of that's feeding back into the grid, so making a little bit more return and making the full grid a little bit more even and getting a teeny bit more output out of it. And then, got the cart and
that looks great.
4x neg.
I love that. So are you using a Mac? Because I see the Mac Apple mouse there.
Yeah, I am.
Does that provide extra fill if it bounces off the mouse?
Yeah. I can to taste here. It gives me maybe not. I need a white chrome barrel. I'm on dark mode right now, so it's not giving me as much return there. So.
Got it. So I've prepared a whole bunch of questions here that we'll kind of go through. This is a whole YouTuber versus cinematographer situation.
Sure. Yeah, no worries.
Say hi to the usuals and the people that are coming up. Mr. Camera Junkie, hi. Tommy Calloway, thanks for showing up, Mr. Camera Junkie. Nils Codes, thanks for showing up as always. Tyler Edwards, he's another great tuber. Got a lot of great people with great channels here in the chat. Huzzah, can hear you. Not fancy, but it looks like it's out of an ad. Talking about the lighting there and the for the whiskey shot, it looks like. I should use some glycerin. That's what they're saying. And Keith says, hey, Tommy, wish I could stick around for the stream, but your streams are so late for us East Coasters. Super interesting topic. Well, thanks for stopping by very quick. And Nils, he says, what power is the 300D on right now, Robert?
I don't remember. I said it probably about a week ago. I haven't touched the setup since. I think it's either on 40% or like 60%. It's one of the two. It's nowhere near. Honestly, I've been thinking about downgrading to a 120 because honestly I've been using the 300D so much for work lately that it's kind of a hassle to keep packing and unpacking just for like YouTube content and stuff like that. So lately I've been toying with the idea of maybe getting a 120 like strictly for YouTube because I don't necessarily always need all that ton of output.
So you're saying that you should just buy more lights.
Yeah. More lights never hurts.
I'll have a sip to that.
Yeah, well, cheers to that.
If I just made all my echo, here we go. All right, so a couple of questions I've got. YouTuber versus cinematographer. Do you think that the title YouTuber is derogatory?
I think at one point I did, but then I became a YouTuber, I would say. So maybe not so much anymore. But no, I don't think YouTubers are, it's a derogatory term, especially since I basically consider myself one now. So at the end of the day, we're all filmmakers, and it's like, I don't treat, we're all looking to achieve the same goal, which is ultimately to tell stories. So no, I don't think I by any means think of that as a derogatory term. So
good. Yeah.
What about you?
So I feel like when trying to share my aspirations to friends, family, and people that I'm close with, and I say that I want to be a YouTuber, it sounds so, lackluster almost, because I know that we all create. We all create in our own way. I create tech videos about cameras and lights and, sometimes tutorials or little things here and there, but it's never on the level of I want to go out and make a feature film, because I don't want to make a film, right? Like, I'm not trying to create that kind of content. Not for other people. I don't get paid to go make videos. I just want to play on YouTube and play with cameras. So, I want to be a YouTuber it sound like when people hear that, it sounds lackluster, but I know what I have. You know what I mean? It's such a strange place to be.
Yeah, I think it's just more so misunderstood for people that aren't in it. Obviously, we're in it, and I mean, at the end of the day, like if you're a YouTuber, you're basically a filmmaker. Like you're sitting down to create this video, no matter what it's on, and then you're uploading it to the internet, then telling some kind of story. So, at a base level, like we're all at some level of filmmakers. So,
I think it's when I mean, really, you can make any term sound derogatory, right? So if someone says, "Oh, he's just a YouTuber," that doesn't sound very flattering, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was just kind of my first question to kick off this evening.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I used to think about this all the time too. It's like, because I think probably at some point I had a similar mindset. It was, a few years ago too. I'm a pretty cynical person. But like as I've come to know and respect YouTube, like as I've started to take it a little bit more seriously and produce more regular content for it. Like I have a newfound appreciation for what being a YouTuber actually is. So it's like of course you can, shame YouTube all you want, but those are probably the people that, aren't doing it for a living and they don't know, like with anything, they have no idea the amount of effort it goes into creating a single video. So
exactly. That's kind of where I was leading that question to. It's like, so in your own personal experience, is being just a cinematographer easier than being a YouTuber, or is it different?
Yeah, I think it's just different. I don't know if I would say it's easier. Like with YouTube, like it's such a struggle. Like with what I'm learning now is that there's such a fine balance between creating original content versus the content that people want to see. Because like those two avenues may not always line up. To whereas if you're a cinematographer, like you're being hired to create content for someone else. Like it's sort of easier in that respect because it's like, okay, you're basically being told what to do. You're just kind of doing it in a creative manner. So, I think they're just different, and you kind of have to navigate them a few different ways. And since I'm kind of starting to create, more content on YouTube, I'm definitely appreciating, all that goes into it a little bit more. Especially, with me having a little bit more of a production background. Like a lot of times, I'll take things I learned from production, and bring it to whatever I'm doing on YouTube, and then vice versa. Like things I'll learn from dealing with YouTube or smaller direct to client gigs. Like I'll take that to production. It's all kind of it all kind of comes full circle in a way, and it kind of makes you really nimble in that regard.
Yeah, that's just trying to learn how to live stream has been such a huge struggle, and so many actually, I call them professionals, paid filmmakers who don't do YouTube have started having to learn how to live stream simply because of the state of what's happened with the whole world. I keep hearing that everyone in those circles is like, everyone's asking about live streaming gigs, and that everyone has to learn how to do it now.
Yeah, I was lucky in that last year, I think it was probably, I forget when it was, but it was towards later last year, I started to pick up like a very small amount of live streaming gigs. So at one point I was like, okay, let me buy like a basic kit. So now I have a basic kit if anyone ever wants to do anything live, because I would have these companies, a couple companies, that they would want to just broadcast their like general meeting. And it was just a very, very simple setup. So it'd be like 2-3 cameras, one wide, one close up on the presenter, and like another throwaway. Like very simple setup. So I had to learn that last year. And it really wasn't that hard to learn. So I'm lucky in that I was kind of prepared for all of this. So like I already had a lot of the stuff. And now that manufacturers, now that everything's happening, a lot of manufacturers are creating new products like the 810 Mini and all the new like things that just make it a million times easier. So, I mean, I may be unlucky in that regard, so that like, because I have to kind of jump through a lot of hoops with the equipment that I already have. But yeah,
what
it's
equipment are you
interesting.
streaming with?
Say again?
What equipment are you streaming the call through to me with?
Right now, I'm just taking the camera feed direct into the laptop. I'm using a little Aja U-Tap. I've talked about it in a couple of my videos. And it's actually how I take, more recently, a lot of my gigs now, they're not so much live streaming, but they're just being able to take the signal from the camera and pipe it into the computer and send it through Zoom, Skype, or whatever. Those have been more so a lot of the recent gigs that I've been doing. And just being able to be prepared for that was incredible. Like I was doing a gig, it was for Vice over the summer, and it was a remote interview. Me and my gaffer were like basically the only ones on set, and we had to do an interview. And during pre-pro, they were the producers and showrunners. They were like running me through like how they set up the interview and all this stuff. And they would say that they would rent an extra laptop dedicated and just to point the webcam at the monitor. And I'm like, no, like there's a device literally made for this. And so I was able to, plug it in through a decimator, have both feeds up and run that in through Zoom. And they were just blown away. They were amazed. They're like, oh my God, can you show me how you did that? They were like, it was such a novel, and because they told me they were filming interviews across the country, and this was like, I was not the only. They were doing like dozens of interviews across the country, and that was how they did it at each interview. I'm like, there's a better way to do this, and so that's wild.
That's crazy. That's really That's I picked up the Atom Mini Pro. And I actually bought it used from Photo Joseph, another creator, because he was upgrading to the Atom Mini Pro ISO. And I didn't know anything about live streaming. I've never done it before, but I decided that I wanted to try something on Wednesday nights just for me, something to like, try to be creative in a very condensed period of time. And I mean, I think I've finally got it figured out for the most part. Most of these are extremely rushed. But we've got kind of a format, and it seems like we've got some people that are listening and watching, which is really kind of cool.
No, it's really cool. I've always, even before this year, I've always been interested in streaming. Like no matter what it was, I've always wanted something. Like me personally, I've always wanted some kind of platform where I could just stream. I didn't know what it would be or like what I would stream, like whether it be Twitch or whether it be YouTube, whatever. But now that live streaming has kind of taken over, I'm kind of happy that it's kind of given me something I've always longed for in a really weird sense. So
by the way, if you guys haven't already, go subscribe to Robert's channel. It is linked in the description of this live stream. He's got some really great stuff. I actually mentioned him on the previous live stream. I invited him out to this stream last week while he was on this stream watching. And so thanks for coming out again, and subscribe to him. So anyways, we have a question for you from Rocky Mountain Reviewer, Robert.
Yeah.
He says, but as a DP, what do you think about buying equipment versus renting per project? I've been wanting a combo stand so that I'd always have one on the ready.
That's a really good question. It really depends on how often you work with that piece of equipment and how often, for me, like a lot of my business decisions or purchasing decisions come from if I'm able to rent that piece of gear out. Like with combos, like it's tough with grip for me because like I don't really charge for grip. I make a bulk of my rentals off of like lighting and cameras and stuff like that. For grip, but for the one-off, like a lot of my friends and a lot of my colleagues, obviously they know I own a lot of stuff. So a lot of times they'll hit me up like, hey, do you have a combo stand or a 4x sandwich? They'll just hit me up with random, like small couple pieces of grip equipment. In that sense, I'll be able to rent it out to them. But it's not terribly often. For me personally, as a DP, things, one-offs like combo stands are kind of just, for me, I just eat the bullet. I just eat it. And it kind of pays back in other ways. So.
Solid answer. Thank you. So I have my own question. I'm going to go on to the next one here.
Okay.
What's your biggest pet peeve that you see YouTubers saying or doing?
Oh man, that's a good one. Man, one of my big pet peeves is, and I don't know if it's centered around film. I don't think I see a lot of filmmaker YouTubers.
Feel free
do
to
it,
call
but it's
me
just
out
kind of,
too.
No, it's just kind of overall general. I have another one I can talk on too, but one of them is like when people, like, you know, they'll turn it on for YouTube. Like, so when they get on camera and present to camera, they're like, they get so much energy. What's up, guys?
What's up, guys?
It's like, it drives me crazy. There's this one creator, you Sarah Dietschy. Are you familiar with Sarah Dietschy?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know that she does it all that, like, she has a very like uppity like personality and stuff like that. And so a lot of the times I'm just like, you know, kind of turned off by it or whatever. I mean, she makes great content, but there was one episode in particular I saw, I don't know, it was about a year or two ago, where she was just starting her podcast and she got a new microphone and it was just her and to the camera. And she was talking to the camera in like a normal voice, like a normal like speaking voice. And I was like, that's the Sarah I want to see. It's like, that's for me personally, but
real.
I know, like, yeah. And YouTube,
you know, that's
like,
what I like about your videos is the way you address the camera and talk to the audience. It's like you're talking to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I try to keep it as. Like, I'm trying to be as genuine as possible, and you know, I try not to you know, a lot of things YouTubers do are like bits or whatever, like comedic, you know, little moments of comedic relief, which, you know, sometimes are funny, but you know, a lot of the time, like, I try not to do that. Like, that's just not me. And so
obviously scripted and rehearsed.
yeah. Or even if it's just like taking up time, it's like, dude, I'm like, can you like move on? But for the longest time, I had zero interest in being on camera. And I only recently started being more on camera. It was just like this year, like this August or whatever. But the reason being is because when I think of YouTubers, I think of talent. You know, I think like their talent, obviously, for their own video. And I don't think I ever had that. I was interested in that. I was never interested in, you know, there's a reason I'm behind the camera. So, the way I would record all my older videos is like, I would never be on camera at all. It would just be purely B-roll, and I would just do a voiceover with a microphone. But I started pivoting this year because it's really hard to do an entire video with like strictly just B-roll. It's incredibly hard. So that's kind of why I pivoted and started appearing on camera more. And I'm just kind of, you know, coming out of my shell.
A-roll is easy.
Sense. Say again?
A-roll is easy. You just record yourself talking, you know?
A-roll is hard. What are you talking? I don't know about you. A-roll is so difficult for me. I won't record if I don't have a teleprompter. I have like the most over-engineered teleprompter setup, and it works for me, and it's great. And I try to, you know, present it so that it doesn't seem like I'm on a prompter, but I definitely am. But even if it does seem like I am, like, I don't care. Like, I am not recording any YouTube videos without a prompter because I've done it before, and it takes me hours. And
it takes a long time. That's for sure.
I got other things to do. Yeah.
So I've tried using a prompter. I've tried not using a prompter. And what I find is the easiest way for me personally to record a video and get one done, and also retain the most engagement, the most watch time, just kind of like the most successful videos that I do, is when I learn about a piece of equipment and then just talk about it. Just off the cuff. Maybe have a couple things that I know I want to cover, make sure I cover them, but that's it. You know, if I do the scripted stuff, I'm not Gerald Undone. You know, I can't talk as fast as him. He throws so much information at you that, you know, I'm sure his retention is very high. I trail off like if I try and script something, I want to like, I don't know.
Like, oh, I forgot something here, and I want to talk about the, like that.
And so I'll like go into all these extreme details about like the most minute, stupid things that nobody cares about, and that'll cause like viewer retention to tank. So, I mean, if it's just me going through bullet points in my own mind, it seems like it's a lot better, and also it seems a lot more natural because it is. And that's just how I have to make videos.
Yeah, for me, it's like whenever I come up with any kind of response to anything, whether it's like a comment or I'm thinking about how to present this video, like with anything, I just love to like just sit down for a day and just like I'll literally sit with my laptop and I'll just think about it. Like especially when I'm like crafting responses to comment, whatever. I just love having time to myself to just kind of reflect, and so that's why I try not. Sometimes I do obviously leave stuff out because I forget to, add it in the script or whatever. But for me, I just love taking the time to just kind of sit it through. If that makes sense.
I find when I forget to talk about something, it gives me an opportunity to add like a cutaway at a different angle of me talking about something where everything's different. It's exciting. The angle's changed. You're somewhere else. It's just I think that even that helps. I don't know. I still don't know how to make the perfect video. I'm still learning.
Yeah. It's tough, and especially like what the issues that I usually run into is that if I'm trying to be more freeform with kind of the video's flow, like, and I want to like sometimes I'll have a good on like a OTS or like a moment that I want to show. If I have a B-roll, if I'm trying to show B-roll, but it has a great little soundbite in it, and I want to sprinkle that in. It's like, how do I do that if I'm, it's hard kind of, so I have to sort of plan these things out beforehand and in pre-pro for YouTube. So it's cool.
So I have more questions. Actually, here, let me go over my pet peeve. And it kind of goes in line with what we were talking about. It has to do with people that have scripted videos that are clearly using a teleprompter, but have absolutely no personality. Like,
right.
Like they're just reading. It's clear. It's obvious.
Yeah.
And there's a couple people, I'm not going to name anyone or call anyone out, but you can tell that they would be so much more successful if they just, I don't know, rehearsed first or tried.
Yeah, just give it a read through,
like,
give it some voice.
Are you trying to produce a video every single day and then you just hit publish? Like there's nothing, There's no life to it. Yeah. It's like at that point, I'd rather just read it. I'll just read the captions, pause the video.
I always remember me, like, when you were in school, like elementary, whatever school, and they would like take turns like reading through a book. Like, okay, you read the next paragraph. Like I would always recall myself, like as a kid, like I would always read, like one, I would always like read it really fast for some reason. But two, like I would sort of how I read a teleprompted script, like I would sort of kind of read it in the same manner. So, I don't know. Whenever I am reading off a prompter, I still try to, act like I'm talking to someone. I, imagine someone.
So what do they do in Hollywood? Mr. Cinematographer, not Hollywood. What do they do for professional shoots of people that are not experienced being on camera? What is the most common thing that you do?
Oh, that's rough. Well, that's a director/producer question. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that.
So let's dial back then. So what exactly is the role of cinematographer? Often.
Traditionally, a cinematographer has kind of oversees the creative control and kind of heads the camera department and the digital acquisition of a film or a piece or a project, whatever. And usually they have creative say over, the visual style, and it's basically visual storytelling, and kind of goes in hand with the director and PD, production designer, and positions like that. So, were you like leading into another question there?
No, not really. I was just trying to see, what you feel. And so how about what is, have you ever been hired to do the cinematographer role, but then asked to do things that were outside of your role that you weren't comfortable with?
100%, all the time, all the time. And especially now, since crews are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, it's like now we're having to wrangle all, like all the stuff that I do, like for instance, all the gigs that I require, piping the camera feed into laptop, Zoom, whatever, all that stuff. Usually like AC, like usually, well, now a lot of ACs are doing that. I just so happen to know how to do all of that. And, it kind of provides value for the client in that, you don't need to hire an AC, not saying that I'm like trying to undermine their role in, on set, but, in the times of, what's going on today, producers are looking for smaller crews. So that kind of goes a long way.
So when they ask you to do more stuff than you were hired for, do you get to ask for more money, or do you just kind of have to roll with the punches if you want to get your check?
I mean, it depends. You gotta have to vibe it out. You have to, if it's like a couple small things, like usually like it'll slide. But if it's like, like for instance, like last week I did a job and, they asked me for a quote, gave them a quote, and it was basically what we're talking about, piping it feed through Zoom. I quit it for a half day because usually it only takes a quick half day interview, but I was there for about 6-7 hours. So like I went back and emailed like, hey, can I bill for a full day? And they're like, sure. So it's like, it depends. You kind of have to vibe it out per project and per client or per producer, per point of contact. So it usually depends. But once they start asking for more things, and we actually talked about this in my last live stream of being an owner operator. It's like, if you are providing a lot of value for your client, and bringing stuff that they didn't ask for, and then they start asking for that stuff again, what you can do is be like, hey, I know you like me bringing this, doing this, whatever last time, can we bill for it? So, it ultimately depends.
They get the free sample and they want to keep coming back.
You get the free samples. So that's one of the many perks of owning a lot of gear and knowing how to do a lot of things, is that they'll be like, oh, that was great. Can we do that again?
I know a little bit about owning a lot of gear. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You got a lot of lights.
Yes, I do have a lot of lights.
Than me.
Yeah, I have a lot of lights than most professionals. So actually, the questions that I was just asking are leading into the next one, and we're going to start getting personal here.
Okay.
What is the most, and if you're not comfortable answering this, just let me know. It's fine. I'll answer it for myself. You don't have to answer it. But okay. So what's the most money you've made from a single gig, and how long did it take, or how hard was that gig?
Let's see. I would say the most. So it's for me, it's different because I'm more so of an individual as opposed to a production company. The most I've probably been paid for a gig is, I would say, probably like 8,000 or 9,000. It's nothing. I don't think it was anything over 10. I honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head. But it wasn't so much. I think for one gig, it was maybe like 8,000 or 9,000.
So was all of that profit like in pocketable money, or did you have to delve out some of that cash for expenses?
I would probably about 90% of it was profit, I would say. And it depends on what I actually deem profit, is because since I own a lot of gear, obviously I rent it out, and I don't really consider it profit until it's paid for all the way. So, and then there's also independent contractors too. So sometimes I'll hire out like an AC, gaff, stuff like that. So I'll pay them rather than production. So that could also lead into it. But it's different because like there are more times where I get paid more where it's like I'm owed for multiple gigs. So it's like, all right, I did a gig this week. All right, and a couple of weeks later I did another, and same client did another gig this week. And so ultimately at the end of the day, they owed me like 15, 20 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll start seeing that come in lump sum, stuff like that. So. Yeah,
that is interesting. So my answer to that question is as a YouTuber, right? The most, I guess the most that I've received in compensation for a single video, and this has happened multiple times, is around $7,000 in equipment value. Now I call equipment value because like as a tech reviewer, people send me equipment and review it and play with it, try and integrate it in my studio. I've been over that a few times on my live streams and videos. But once that equipment expires from my workflow, at that point, I might offload it and then order a red Komodo, like I did.
Like what you did.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, $7,000 is kind of like the higher end. That's happened maybe 3 times, and that's in equipment value. As far as straight cash sponsorships,
was it like one piece of equipment, or was it like multiple?
For single piece of equipment, it was about $4,500.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about $4,500. That's kind of like the single piece of equipment. Usually, it's like a package. There's a couple extra things in there. And then the most highest paying sponsorships that I've gotten cash money has been like $3,000. That's happened to once or twice
for like one video.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, it's surprising for a channel of about less than 40,000 subscribers. In my opinion, I think it's surprising. I'm happy with it.
No, I think that's a great number to be at. That's like, if you factor in, like if you're doing that consistently, like that's, obviously YouTube can be a full-time job, but like that's like full-time job numbers. So it's like, that's cool.
Well, that's the goal, is eventually I'd love to do this as my full-time career, right? Like, YouTuber, right? YouTube tech is a thing. And so I'm trying to get there. And I think that in order for me to consistently drive those kind of numbers, I'd probably need maybe 6 or 7 times as many subscribers as I currently have. But then it's a reality. Right now I have Wednesday night and like sometime on the weekends.
Yeah. It's not a lot. I'm kind of in the same boat, but I'm a little bit more flexible because I'm obviously freelance. So things for me are starting to slow down a lot. So I have a lot more free time, but I've been consuming it with Call of Duty. So I mean, it's whatever. But I feel like I'm in a I mean, maybe not similar boat, but that is one big reason I started creating a little bit more consistently, is a little bit more free time. So
we have I have one more question that's on top of that, and then we have some comment questions here.
Yeah.
So how long does it take you to produce one of your YouTube videos?
So I will sit down, and it takes me usually a day or two to write it. And this is our factoring, because usually I sprinkle in a lot of B-roll in my videos. That's not even including any of that. Usually that'll be like another separate day, depending on whatever it is. Usually it takes me a day to film it, usually it takes me a day to film it, a day to write it. And it takes me one day. I'll shoot like the talking head stuff, and then I'll edit it that night. Like I'll just bang it out in like one session, and then that's it. So like a few days usually. So
not bad. I did the math. It takes me between 1 and 2 weeks of free time per video, which boils down to between 8 and 30 hours of actual work.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's about right. But like, obviously, like you said, you're kind of spreading it out over your free time. So that's obviously your biggest limiting factor. So.
Yeah, so we have a question in the comments. What's a good way to get SDI out to a live stream or Zoom? And I've got 2 answers here.
From what?
From the comments. I don't know. I mean, just from
SDI.
From SDI
what are you talking about, SDI?
Yeah, so we've got this guy here, which is the Mars 400 S Pro, which does SDI out. Or, I'm sorry, you can do SDI in. Here we go. Let's make sure you can see this. There we go. And then on the receiver, you have HDMI out. So that'll convert it to HDMI, and then you can stick it into any of the HDMI to USB devices. Or what I'm going to be using additionally with the Komodo is the, $50, the Blackmagic SDI to HDMI thing, and then you can stick it into that, a Mini Pro. So those are a couple of options. I don't know if you have any other options, Robert.
Sorry, can you say that again?
So I don't know if you have any other options of how to get SDI into like a Zoom call.
Oh, it's what I'm using right now. I've mentioned it a bunch of times before. Actually, I'm cropped, so you can't really see it. Aja UTAP. So AJAU Tap. Look that up. It's what I use to pipe in SDI. And they make an SDI version or an HDMI version. And then on the other end is USB 3. So I'll just pipe that into my computer.
Nice. And so what camera are you using right now, by the way?
So right now this is the FX9. It's like sort of my go-to like YouTube like setup. It's
the
super
FX9.
wild.
That's my go-to YouTube setup. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the cinematographer.
Yeah, it's got everything I want. It's got audio. It's got and the big thing for me is time code and SDI. Like right now, because I've like this guy right here. I don't know if you can see it on the window, but I've 17-inch monitor right in front of me, and like usually I want to see the signal. Too. Yeah, I want to see the signal as big as I can. Exactly. There you go. For the same reason that we use monitors on set is because, that way we can see problem areas, or we can just kind of analyze a bigger picture and, what it's supposed to look like, and it's calibrated and all that stuff. So, and I'm sitting probably about 8 to 10 feet away from the camera. And if you know me, I despise using HDMI, so I'll avoid it at all possible costs. And as far as going to use something like an FX9 for YouTube, so
that's hilarious. I mean, I shouldn't be talking. As soon as the Komodo gets here, that's my new webcam.
Hey, there you go.
For YouTube and streaming and stuff.
That's tight and right, and that's if whatever floats your boat. I always say it's like if it works for you, then it works for you. That's like that's what you were talking about pet peeves. Here's another one. Another one is it's not necessarily directed at YouTubers, but it's more so the very, very dedicated and loyal fan base some of them have. And it's like, I don't have a problem with their content. I have a problem with some of their fans. They're just so toxic sometimes. It's like, but he said this, he said this, he scientifically proved it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, but it's not how I work. It's like, it doesn't have to work for everybody. And that's the wonderful thing about filmmaking, and wonderful thing about, what we're doing is that everyone has a different workflow. If it doesn't work for you, hey, that's cool. It's like, it works for me. So I'm not saying it'll work for you,
Yeah,
so,
of course. So,
my 2 cents.
On the same note of lights and cameras and situations like that, is gear important?
To an extent. If obviously gear helps, it helps for sure. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to say that gear doesn't matter, because if you give someone a potato, it's like, dude, like a literal potato. It's like, what am I going to do with this? But I think if you have the fundamentals, then you could make anything look good. It's like, I have this sentiment that, any camera is a professional camera in my hands. Like whenever, I'm sure
that's
many
such a
of
good
you
quote right there.
or whoever have gone out in public with, any kind of camera and been shut down by security. Like, hey, this is private property. You're not allowed to take pictures, photos here, whatever. It's like, dude, it's a tiny little camera. It's like, what about this camera right here? It's like, this is a professional like I can make this a professional camera. Like, and actually I don't know how much time we have, but do I have time for a quick story?
We have about another half hour.
Okay. Well, here's a quick story. I was shooting for AWS, Amazon Web Services, a few years ago. And we were shooting like, we were basically a roaming B-roll crew, and we were shooting interviews. So they were having this party at this offsite location. So we show up at it's like a nightclub, and it was a party just for attendees and stuff. And so we're shooting interviews, and we showed up to outside the club, and they were like, hey, you can't. They saw like we had like a 1x panel and like a camera, and my FS7, and the security came up and was like, you can't use that, but you use your phone. And I'm like, what the heck? So the producer, they just like looked at me and it's like, they just started nodding. We downloaded Filmic Pro. We shot these interviews for AWS, for Amazon on our phones, like right outside. So, I mean, yeah, whatever.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think so. I kind of prepared a little bit of an answer on this one. So personally, for me, I think gear has kind of been like extremely important because it's the entire subject matter of the majority of my content. Mm-hmm. And I think
me too, actually. Just yeah.
And without that gear, so so all the videos that I've reviewed and all the gear that has been sent to me to review, it's been because I wanted to integrate or use that gear in my subsequent videos to improve my production quality. And, you know, in essence, finance my YouTube studio by doing reviews of gear that I'm using or want to use in my YouTube studio. And that's put me at kind of a, I don't know if juxtaposed or whatever. It's put me in a weird state lately because I finally got all the gear I wanted, even to excess. And I mean, what am I going to do with the red Komodo, right? I mean, I'm going to use it and play with it and talk about it for clicks and views. But the one thing that I am now trying to learn, which I should have learned a long time ago, is how to tell a story. And that's, I mean, anyone can do that without any gear. In fact, a story that's told really well without any gear would probably be perceived by the vast majority of people as more valuable.
Right. Yeah, I think fundamentals like that, I would think of it more so as of a scale. So it's like what's more important? It's like, you know, gear or like knowing how to use it. You know, obviously knowing how to use it is a little bit more valuable, a lot more valuable. So I mean, if you have those fundamentals, like you can make anything look good, and you know that'll carry your story, your image, your script, whatever it is. It'll carry that a long way.
Well, that's the thing. I know how to technically make a beautiful image and to light things appropriately and to make the hero stand out and to make the background the center of attention, you know, how to, but the actual crafting of the story, that's the part that I'm still learning. And I think that a lot of people forget.
Yeah, I think I'm in a very similar boat too, because like I am very technically based. Like at the end of the day, we're image technicians, and I know exactly what you were saying. I know how to make something look good. I know all the buttons, knobs, widgets, whatever that we can use to make something look good. But it's like that whole creative bubble, the whole other side of my brain, that creative part. And kind of story parts, like that's like I would not be able to write a script to save my life. So that's why I love film, is because it's such a collaborative process, so that I'm able to lean on other people. I'm able to lean on other directors that are a little bit more nimble in that respect. So yeah, I feel the same way.
Interesting. And what is so this is kind of leading. Thank you for the answer, by the way. So this is kind of a follow-up to that question. What gear is the most important gear?
Most important gear. That's a good question. Like a singular piece of gear?
No. Yeah, a single piece of gear. What is the most important after you have a camera? Because obviously you can't record anything without a camera, right? Mm-hmm. So after that, what is the most important piece of gear?
I mean, obviously a light. I think a light or audio, a good light or a good mic. I mean, either or. I feel like they're both pretty equal. You could honestly, I might lean towards a good mic, or think about audio, because you can kind of do a lot of things to shape natural light and kind of do what you want it to do. And again, it's kind of going back to those fundamentals. Like if you think about light, you have like 5 different variables of light that you can control. And if you can, kind of block or stage something in a particular way without actually lighting it, and just relying on natural light, that goes a long way. So, depending on what it is, I might look for a good mic.
Yeah, I think so. That's interesting. I guess it depends on what you're willing to create, because if you're trying to create an audiobook, obviously you want a microphone.
Yeah, right.
Podcast microphone is going to be the most important thing if you're filming podcasts. If you're trying to make silent films, probably not a microphone, right? Probably a light.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's the age-old answer too. It's like it ultimately depends. It's like people ask me all the time. It's like, what camera do I buy? And it's like, dude, it depends. Like, do I buy an FX6 or do I buy a Komodo? And it's like, it depends. Like, what do you want to do with it? So
Yeah.
Ultimately, it depends is like usually the best answer for like everything.
Here's a great comment from Mr. Camera Junkie in the chat. He says, "Bad audio is unwatchable."
It's true. It's true. You could have a poo-poo looking image with great audio, and I'd watch it. So.
Yeah. Pretty much. And I guess the last prepared question I have before we start riffing and answering some more questions here is, what gear do you think is a huge waste of money?
Man, I don't want to bag on gimbals, but I think gimbals are way overused and overhyped lately. I think people rely a little bit too heavy on they're great tools for what they are, but again, like it depends. It depends on the story. What are you trying to tell? What are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to show? I use gimbals all the time, but I some people, like especially a couple of years ago, when gimbals were starting to become really popular. It was like this glorified widget that everyone flocked to, and I even had a producer or two. It's like, okay, we're gonna shoot this interview. It's going to be a good interview. I think about putting you on the gimbal. And I was like, wait. Stop right there. It's like, why? Oh, just to get a little bit of movement. And I'm like, dude, movement from like here to here. It's like, now you're just like, it's unnecessary. And it's like, does this even fit the story that we're trying to tell? So, other than that, I love gimbals, by the way, but other than that, I actually talked about this in the last stream that I did on my stream. Is the Narbox 2.0. I freaking hate that thing.
That's the first time I've heard anyone say that.
Yeah, everyone loves that freaking thing. I've given it a few chances. Maybe I need to give it a few more, but it doesn't. And maybe I'm just being harsh. And going back to what I was saying earlier, it's like it just doesn't fit into my workflow. It might fit into others, great. But for me, I think for me it was a big waste of money.
So I think it's funny that you mentioned gimbals, because that's my prepared answer always about what is the biggest waste of money. Mm-hmm. It's a gimbal always. I have I did a whole gimbal showdown where I had 4 gimbals and I like compared them everything. Super popular video. Everyone loves gimbals.
Everybody loves gimbals. But
I put them away after
gimbals,
that.
Lights.
After that video, I stuck them in the closet. And since I got the Rhino Arc 2 slider, I haven't picked up or used my gimbal except for the time when I was selling one. It's if anyone wants to buy my DJI Ronin S, by the way, $200, I'll send you the whole kit. I think it's the $500 kit.
That's actually a killer deal. I'm not gonna lie. That's actually,
dude. It's in a box. My favorite gimbal is my Moza Aircross 2. It's not as powerful, but like it's just easier to use, I guess. And by the way, I still haven't used that one in a year. So, waste of money.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and a place for them, but usually they're just wrong. So, I love them as a tool, but again, if it's appropriate for what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do, sure. But unless you can check those boxes, then but start looking elsewhere.
Cool. I just messaged the chat. First person to message me on Twitter gets it. Don't leave the don't leave the stream though. If you message me on Twitter, but you drop off as a viewer on the stream, then you don't get it. You have to do it in a separate tab. All right, let's answer some questions. If anyone has questions for Rob, do you go by Rob or Robert or Robbie?
I don't go by Robbie. Rob or Robert. Okay. People call me both.
Because I feel like I've been calling you Rob, but I've been saying Robert.
A lot of people call me Rob. So
cool. Where are you based out of?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. That's right. I know. I've probably heard you say that in like every single one of your videos. I don't know.
No, all good.
What's the worst thing that happens in Vegas to filmmakers? Is there like a certain type of thing they try and make you film?
Like a certain...
I don't know. I mean, is there anything that you don't like about being a cinematographer or filmmaker in Las Vegas?
Oh no, I love it. I love it. When things were normal, I would get all kinds of different projects coming through. The usual answer in Vegas is conventional work, but there's obviously none of that going on right now. convention work is it's 50-50 because one, it's super soul sucking and nobody loves doing it. But it pays really well. So
super
it's like,
soul stuck in Vegas. That sounds accurate for many industries.
Yeah, usually convention work is kind of a drag, but it pays well. So it's like I don't really mind. It's actually how I'm able to afford a lot of my gear. So, but again, like none of that's going on right now. But no, like when things were normal, I would get a ton of different projects rolling in through, and I actually get a surprising amount of emails just through my website. Like a lot of people, they'll just Google Las Vegas cinematographer, Las Vegas DP, and they'll find me, and I'll get a ton of work that way. So. And Vegas is such a small town and it's not saturated like other places like LA, New York, wherever. So it's like the film community is very small and localized. So we all know each other, which is great. So we'll always bring each other on each other's jobs and vice versa. So
is there like
Vegas.
a list of cinematographers or filmmakers that have been like outcasted from the locals in Vegas?
I don't know if there's a list, but there's like maybe an unspoken list of people that we maybe shy away from. That the general consensus is maybe go a different route. But there's a handful of people, and I mean that's another great thing about Vegas is that who to maybe not work with, or if you see someone's name on the call sheet, you kind of mentally prepare yourself. So
yeah. So I've got a question for you. It's not from the chat, but people are asking about how do you learn a camera? Now I know because I've been watching your videos, like a good little subscriber, that you also happen to have this camera here, which is the Sony a7S III. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
I do have one.
So you also are an FX9 owner.
Yep.
Do you feel that you wasted your money on the FX9? Or is the A7S III fill a different need? What is your thoughts on that camera? Because I know a lot of people are waiting on it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The FX9 will always have a time and a place. A lot of people feel cheated that the A7S can do like more recording modes out of the box than the FX9, but for me, it's just a different tool. So I think of all my camera, everything that I buy, it's just another tool that I can add to the tool belt because every job is different. And the video I actually just posted today, I took out my A7Ss because they were easy to travel with. So like as a travel camera, these cameras are great. But that being said, productions usually never ask for them. They'll usually ask for, if I'm getting an email from a producer, they're usually asking, it's always for FS7 and now it's /FX9. And maybe some of the newer Canon cameras, because now autofocus is a big thing with everything going on, and they want to reduce crew sizes and do remote interviews. So now autofocus is a huge consideration when talking about cameras. But no, I don't feel gypped at all by Sony. It's just another tool that I can use for a different purpose. Again, most of my work is through production, and they'll usually always be asking for an FX9 caliber camera.
Interesting. Does the A7S III work as a B cam to your FX9?
Yeah, it cuts. It's practically 1-to-1.
That's amazing.
In one of my actually, I did a video. If you want to go through my page, I did a video on a hedge maybe a month or two ago, and actually that video I had the two cameras intercut as my talking head segments, and I don't think anybody noticed.
That's crazy. So this is my. I got to show this to you because someone had a question on Twitter or one of my streams. This is my A7S III rig today. They asked if you power it through USB-C, will it lose power? And so when we started recording on the stream, I had 95%, and they said if you record over USB-C. If you power it over USB-C, then you shouldn't lose any power. And I'm using a VMAP battery over DTAP to a Hawkwoods USB-C converter, which puts out 65 watts of power. So it should be giving it full power. And so if I unplug this, we started at 95%. It should give me the percentage readout. I'm now at 94%. So yeah, it's safe to say that you generally don't lose any output if you have the A7S III powered over USB-C. It just kind of stays full power.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. I don't remember that always being the case.
Yeah, it used to be that you would your battery would die eventually a lot
right,
faster.
You would still kind of have that drain even though you're
Yeah. Fun little rig. So I got the remote, sorry, the Mars 300 on here, and that's on.
So how are you enjoying that camera actually?
Dude, the autofocus it's game changing for me. Over here we've got the GH5, right? That is a camera that has been in manual focus since I've owned it, pretty much. It's not been in autofocus in like a year. So having something where I can switch to it and then be like, hey, look at this. And just, of course, the one time, I have it over there. Yeah. So, I just kind of hold something up to it and it just like I'm super close to the camera. It's probably out of the focus distance. Here we go. It just tacks onto your eyeballs and like the focus is really I can't believe it. I'm just gushing about how good it is. All it is just autofocus. Like that's the thing that I wanted. If I got DJI's Raven Eye thing, I'd probably be equally elated with the GH5 again. It's just having really, really good autofocus. That was actually, going back again to why I started creating videos or why I started appearing on camera more was because of autofocus. Because a couple years ago, like there weren't any real kind of solid options. They had the Sony mirror. Some of the Sony mirrorless cameras were pretty good, but I had FS7, so it's like, I had to bust out this FS7 and try to manual focus, sit down. Oh, like, nope, it's soft. Yeah, I was considering picking up one of the Tilta Nucleus Nanos just so I could have the little focus wheel right here with the focus peaking so I could see it and like the whole monitor setup. You don't need any of that if you actually invest in the A7S III now, which will just kind of handle all of that. And the little box on your eye, like you can see it on the screen, having a 2.5 inch screen 7 feet away is not super useful. But if you see the little box on your eye, you can now trust that your face is in focus, and that's all you really need.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I do with my camera, and that's why I was so excited about this camera, because I got this camera with the FX9 in January, and now I have two of them. But that was one of the reasons I was so. Yeah, I have two of them. I just picked my second one up a couple months ago, and that one's almost paid off already too. So it's a good investment for me. But no, that was one of the big selling factors for me is the autofocus. So for YouTube, I'll just plop it, set my frame, and I'll just walk in, and I literally have not touched the lens, and it keeps me tack sharp all the way through. So that's awesome. Even for interviews too, like when we're doing remote interviews or any kind of interviews, I had talent moving back and forth, and director wants a super shallow depth of field, and it's like, okay,
you got it. Easy.
Perfect.
So we have a couple questions
no complaints
for you
from me.
From the comments, the peanut gallery here. See, question for Rob: How to get perfect handheld walking shots without using a gimbal? Thanks. The camera in question is a red weapon with a Leica Summilux. Easy rig or no?
With a oh man, if you're rocking that, what else are you running on that red? I guess that's the question. If it's just the lens and the body and like a battery, that might be enough to take away a lot of the micro jitter. But it depends, because easy rigs aren't really designed to take away a lot of the. It's not really designed to stabilize cameras. They're just more so designed to take off the load. But you kind of just have to develop. You have to practice that walk. That duck walk. That you have to kind of put a bend in the knee and then just use your legs as a shock absorbers. And
I hear if you break both of your legs, you'll be equipped with a wheelchair, which will make that much easier if you mount it to the.
That's also another good alternative. But I would say that if that rig might be heavy enough to where it takes away a lot of those micro jitters, and it might dampen a lot of that handheld's shakiness. So if anything, I would say. Add weight to the rig and practice that duck walk. marching band technique.
Thank you for answering that one. We have one more from Rocky Mountain Reviewer for you. And I'm actually curious about this too. What do you think about the Red Komodo for owner-operators? It has some awesome features for the price, but also some quirks. Love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I haven't really spent too much time with one. I know a couple of friends that have one. One of them has two of them. But yeah, no, I think Red, they are they're doing a really smart move with the Komodo, because, everyone, to me, in my eyes, Red is a hype brand. And there's so much hype surrounding Red as a company, and that Red logo and the red tactical black, matte black, their cameras, and, everyone, thinks of Red and they think it's like the end all be all of cameras, which I don't think is the case. But they're making a really smart move with the Komodo, because they're pricing it at like an incredible price point for what you get with all the batteries. You have SDI and you have XLR too, right? Is it a mini?
No,
XLR?
There's no XLR. It's got
XLR.
I think it's got a 3.5 millimeter jack for you could put like a Rode Video Mic Pro on it.
You can put like some on it, but
yeah.
No, I think they're and I've seen so many people like either interested or like buying/bought the camera. So I think, and if you follow, I'm sure you follow Jared on Instagram.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he he was just saying that their warehouses and their distribution centers have been at capacity, so they're making a killing off of the Komodo, and
they stopped taking
really
orders. They're beyond capacity, and they're so back ordered that they turned off their buy button. You can't order it now.
Right.
They're backed up.
Exactly. And so, yeah, they're killing it. But in terms of actually, I haven't used one. I've held one a couple times. I haven't actually used it. Red, they make good products. Ultimately, it depends,
It depends.
It depends on what you're trying to do. But as an owner operator, it's pretty interesting. And a lot of people are looking to upgrade to that as their A camera. So, it's tough now. It's because, I see a lot of content on YouTube or wherever, Vimeo, any kind of video. And then I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes I'll watch a video and I'll like be curious on what that was shot on, and I'll find out. I'm like, oh, that's not what I expected at all. So at the end of the day, it's like if you buy a new camera now, it's like the image quality either way, no matter what you get, is going to be fantastic. So
you just got to buy the right LUT pack, right?
Exactly. So you got to check out my LUT pack on my website. I got it all dialed in and ready for you.
Heck yes. I started selling LUTs too for the A7S III. Gave some away.
How are those going, actually?
Actually, pretty good.
Okay.
I've made like $60 selling LUTs.
Okay.
Which, it's so I have these things here. Which is basically, I didn't want to buy the X-Rite color checker. So my wife has a shop, right, with a bunch of very high quality printers and industrial inks.
Wow.
Right. And so I had to print them all in different color profiles. And I selected the best ones that were, so I made this in Illustrator just off of the color codes that were available in Wikipedia, because that's what X-Rite uses, right? It's the same ones. They just have better inks or something, and some slightly different materials for different colors. Like the black on mine isn't glossy, right? Which theirs is, so it's pure black, whatever. So I matched that with DaVinci Resolve and then created LUTs with the output of a few different ones, and it created different looking color profiles. And it just works really, really well for the profile that I use on the A7S III, which is S-Log3 S-Gamut3.Cine.
Yep.
Overexpose it by 1 stop to like 1.3 stops, and it works. I can do it. I can color grade now.
There you go.
And so I just put those into LUTs for anyone that wanted to use them, because it just kind of worked. It's it's only $10 for all of them together combined in a single package. It's not like $20 per LUT or like $50
Right.
for the package. Plus you have to watch my $60 training course. I'm not there yet. This was
Right.
fun. It was cheap. And so what I'm selling is cheap now. It just works.
And it works for your workflow too. And then, that's the thing. It's like, I think for me, the thing with LUTs is that it's always, for me, it's like always different to where I can never, commit to I think I can honestly say I've never used a LUT, this year. Like, I think I stopped just using LUTs this year. The only time I'll really use LUTs is for monitoring. And, I did actually use one LUT. I gave someone a LUT, and it was actually for GQ, a GQ job I did. And because I gave them obviously the footage, and the skin tones were a little bit like weird, and like the background was like looking a little green screen. So like I did a little tweaking, and I'm happy to say that they used the LUT in the final video. So that's cool.
Yeah. So I was thinking, actually selling these in a 5-pack, like starting in January, like a 5-pack for $30 or something.
Like the actual,
just because someone said
chart?
in the comments, Tommy has physical LUTs, right? And I was thinking I was just going to call him the disposable color checker. I couldn't figure out what to call him. So I think I'm just going to call him LUTs, right?
You could maybe even make a shirt out of that. I might buy a shirt, just like a nice little minimal color chart shirt. I need to hop on that merch game. That's what I need.
Dude, I wanna make one called Get Lit, where it's got a picture of a light on it. Just because of the streams,
Dude, that, and for branding, that's awesome. And then you can do them for like giveaway. Man, I need to get on the merch game too.
What's interesting about these things though is they're printed on adhesive vinyl. So
okay.
So I'm going to show you here.
I didn't know they were adhesive. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Whoops. This one, I think I might have ruined these because I've just been screwing around with them way too much. But you could stick them on the back of a laptop or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or like a bag. But
so like
whatever.
Whenever I'm like filming a YouTube video, I could just.
Yeah, if you just had your laptop up there, open it up, read, see the notes, close it. You've got the color checker in there. I'm sorry, the LUT,
I dig it.
right? It's the LUT, right? Hey, I gave this guy a LUT, right? Use my LUT.
I like it.
It's kind of funny. I don't know. I like that. All right, let's. I'm getting way off track here. Rob, what is the deal breaker for hiring a new staff member?
I don't really hire staff. I hire like independent contractors. I'm going to assume that's what you mean, like a sound person or a AC or something like that. For me, a deal breaker is going back to pet peeves. One of my big pet peeves is cursing on set. Or not even on set. It's more so around when client is around. Like, dude, I cannot stand like I curse all the time. But if I'm around a client, like obviously I'm not going to do that. That's one. Two is being on time. Well, actually, that should flip that. So being on time is one. Being on time. And maybe if I had to throw a third one in there, I would say having a good attitude. It's really just basic, like being a good person traits. Yeah. But like honestly, those go a long way. A lot of times I'll like, if you're all a long day, you're in the trenches and like someone's just like, pouting and just like complaining about, oh, we got to move this setup over here. It's like, dude, just have like a good attitude. And, I always try to have a good attitude. Like sometimes like it shows for me, like I'm not saying I always have a great attitude. Like if I'm feeling it, like you might know, but, I try my best to maintain that composure.
Yeah, so. I mean, that reminds me, I consider myself a studio filmmaker, right? Because I've taken my lights and C-stands and stuff off to help film a few things a couple times. It wasn't paid or anything. But man, that is a lot of manual labor. It is so much work to try and move a whole lighting setup for like a whole day of filming.
And that's the thing too. It's like when we started getting into jobs and stuff like that, when you have a pretty big rental package, it's like when I'm prepping my van, I'll have to, the very next day or the day before, sometimes I'll spend 12 hours prepping, it's like, first I got to figure out what I need. I got to charge all the batteries. I got to organize all my stands, all my C-stands. Do I need combos? Do I need, what 4x do I need? What rags? So it's like, it's a lot for sure. But yeah, even just loading your car with C-stands is a lot of it's a lot of work. So
yeah. So
going to the gym definitely helps in that respect.
Yeah, appreciate your gaffers and your lighting and all that. There's a lot of work that goes into it.
A lot of times, actually, too, when I did a commercial over the summer, and we were all wrapped and ready to go. Everyone was leaving. The only people that were left were like the grips, the grip and gaffer, and my AC. And so I started helping out the grip. Like,
first
okay,
to show up and last
me,
to leave. That's the
yeah.
rule.
Let me help you carry these sandbags back to the truck. And they were like, "Oh, DP, that helps out. You got a A in my butt." It's like
yeah.
little things like that, and just lending a helping hand whenever is needed, like that. Those kinds of things go a long way, I think, and people really appreciate that.
So we're about the end of the stream this evening. If you've got any questions for me, Robert, as a YouTuber, shoot them off.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I would say, in terms like, how do you? Because I know you obviously reinvest back into your channel. With all your like revenue and stuff like that, how do you decide on what to purchase? Because what I'm finding out is that like certain pieces of equipment kind of obviously do more better than others. So it's like, how do you go about determining what is kind of up and coming in the YouTube algorithm?
That's a really good question. Not lights for the most part. Isn't that ironic? The guy that does lights.
What about aperture lights? I feel like those are pretty hot.
Yes. So there are exceptions to the rule.
Okay.
So there's two brands that do really, really well with views. That's Aperture and Godox.
Okay.
And there's a reason that they're trendy with views, and they get a lot of views like that. So as a person who reviews a lot of expensive lights, and has an audience that watches videos of expensive lights, even with my audience, a video on a brand new $5,000 light is not going to get a lot of views, because the only people that are going to watch that video are people that are specifically looking for that light. Right. If you get a video in your feed, and this also goes down to the art of titling and thumbnailing and creating watchable YouTube content and telling a story, for a $5,000 light, if you see Rotolite Titan X1 review, unless you know exactly what that is, you're probably not going to. You're not going to be
looking for it.
If you search for it and you see someone who has made a video on it, you'll watch it. If you're shopping for that light, you'll watch it. But unless you know what it is, why are you going to click on it? So I actually have one of those coming into the studio. It'll be here this month, and I'm going to try something a little different with that video. Why would you buy a $5,000 light? I don't know. I need to figure out a compelling story for that video. But when you talk about Godox and Aperture lights, everybody knows that brand already as the affordable, awesome lights for YouTube, because they did a really good job of contacting everyone that does any type of filmmaking content for tech reviews, and they saturated the internet so whenever you search for a good video light, you'll get one of those two brands' videos. And so when you create when you create a video about a Godox light, especially the new ones like the ML60, which is like the SL60 refurb, redone into the new version, people have already watched a lot of videos about those type of lights and those brands and that price point. And so when you create that video, it's going to show up as suggested content. People are going to click on it. They recognize the brand. They don't recognize the model, or like it's the new Godox or the new Aperture light. So those lights just get views. If you're trying to review lights, or if I'm trying to review lights, Aperture and Godox do really well in that regard. So when I'm trying to decide reinvesting into my channel, what do I buy with my channel budget, because I have the lights, right? For me, it's, I got the Sony A7S III because that is going to be a lot more popular than Nikon's Z6 Mark II, and everyone knows why.
Right.
I mean, Nikon it's kind of failing. Nobody's really looking for it except for photographers. It's not going to get a lot of views. Cameras that get views is it's the Sony A7S III. People have been talking about it for years. Canon's R5 kind of I don't know, burned a lot of people. Get that? So
Okay.
it's just,
All
I mean,
right.
now
Okay.
it's the Sony cameras and the red. So I got the Sony and the red because those are the cameras that are probably going to get views. And here's the last piece is, if you're just trying to buy something to get views on YouTube, it would be an iPhone and a new Mac. Because
I can see that.
if you're trying to create content about filmmaking and you want to talk about cameras, right? There's a subset of people that are interested in being creators on YouTube that have interest in expensive cameras and filmmaking. So when you buy an expensive camera, you have an audience of people that are interested in cameras specifically. When you buy lights, you have a subset of those people who know enough about their cameras to be interested in lights and lighting. But when you talk about iPhones and the quality of the new iPhone and the camera on the new iPhone, every person in the world at one point has had an iPhone in their pocket, most likely, or they probably own one or two, or they have the Android and they're considering an iPhone. Everyone knows what an iPhone is. Your audience is everyone that is watching videos on YouTube and has ever seen a video about an iPhone. So if you make a video about iPhones and you know how to make a good video that retains user interest, you're automatically going to get more views than if you create videos about expensive lights. It's a matter of casting the widest net. So when I choose to buy something for my channel to review to try and grow my channel, it's what can I invest in my channel that is related to my niche that will also cast the widest net.
Interesting.
I think that's kind of my perspective, at least at this point on the internet.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting perspective on purchasing equipment. I would say for me, the purchasing gear, I mean, ultimately it comes down to I'm obviously coming at it from a different perspective because I'm purchasing equipment for
your career.
For the career, but that's also stuff that I think people are also interested in too. So, I mean, I'm kind of lucky in that they both go hand in hand in a way. Because I try to buy stuff that will be easily rentable. And a lot of times the stuff that is rentable will usually get a lot of views. So they kind of intertwine in that sense. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I like that. I mean, yeah, I want stuff that's going to be cool and useful, particularly when I delve out of just talking about gear. I don't know. There's a lot that goes into it. I want the best stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I can't go buy an Arri Alexa Mini yet. And but then also I'm the least qualified red owner in the world at this point, coming up pretty soon. I think there's
a lot of other, I think a lot of people are going to be buying this camera. So I think you might be selling yourself short there. So
We'll see. I mean, at least I know about lighting.
There you go. At least you have the lights to back it up.
Yeah. And so with that, I think that we need to end this evening. I know that I'm getting hungry, so I'm probably going to go grill some steaks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't really been paying attention to the chat. So if you have any questions, additional questions for me.
Yeah, shoot over to Rob's channel. Hit his subscribe button. His link is in the description of this live stream. He's a much more talented cinematographer than I am, though we are both YouTube creators. And we both are very interested in filmmaking. So thanks so much for joining me, Rob. He's also on Twitter. You can send him tweets and messages and likes.
Yeah, absolutely. I just didn't want to make
you gotta send him fleets.
Think that I was ignoring them or anything like that.
Fleets are the new thing, man. All right. Thanks for showing up. All right. We'll see you guys, and I'll talk to you later, Rob. Bye.